So every time I see one of these hats, I buy it. This one's a new one, 50K, so my $2.50. Every time I see one, I buy them. So I now have like 25 of them or something like that. It's getting a little ridiculous, but they're just so cheap and so cool. I fucking love them. So this is Dinh Vua Mèo, and it's a castle that the French built for a local Hmong king in 1919, and it's built with feng shui in a Chinese style, and it's cool to see a building of this age in this part of the world, because in China everything from this period was destroyed. I mean, not everything, but a lot of it during the Cultural Revolution. So it's just cool to see the same kind of style in a slightly different part of the world. Yeah, so this building is really cool. It's 100 years old, and it looks it. And this part of Vietnam back then was kind of part of Vietnam, sort of part of Indochina, sort of part of China. The Hmong were pretty autonomous, which is why this king was able to get the French to build him a palace, because he had a lot of money, he had a lot of military. It's very hard to fight up in the mountains, so the French, instead of fighting him, they just built him this palace and increased his wealth to keep him happy, which is really funny. He was the leader of the Hmong on the entire Dong Ban Plateau, which is quite a large area, and now his legacy is this pretty cool old building. It's cool, all the wood is really old looking. I like this a lot. It's cool because it's not a temple. Usually when you see architecture like this, it's a temple, and I'm so over temples. So it's cool to see something else. And there's a lot of Vietnamese people here because it's a weekend. I bet that it's probably pretty deserted during the week or in low season. And there's, of course, lots of mountains all around as well. And there he is, I guess. I'm guessing that's him, the Hmong king. I'm not sure. What's funny is this is a mill for crushing rice and stuff like that and grain, and they still use this today. I've driven past people using this exact thing today in 2020. 100 years later, they're still using the exact same technique. I mean, if it works, it works. But that also raises the point that some of the people in backwoods Vietnam, or like anywhere, any people that live like high up in the mountains or in really inaccessible locations, their lives haven't really changed that much in the last few hundred years. Some of them are still living like it's the Middle Ages. And I'm not saying that, as a white guy from the West, being like, oh, there's backwoods savages. No, they just, if something works, then there's no need to change it. And sometimes if you drive out into the middle of nowhere in Vietnam, you see people using really, really old technology. And it's really interesting, just like, the advent of them getting motorcycles was probably the biggest change, and then cell phones. But for the rest of the time, their lives haven't changed much. And it's interesting. It's very big here, too. There's like 4 of these courtyards. It's craziness. Also, it seems like all of the tourists here are from Ho Chi Minh City. I've met like 4 people so far, and they're all from Ho Chi Minh City, which is crazy because that's really far away. Vietnamese tourists aren't as bad as Chinese tourists, but they're close.